Moving from place to place. Good morning, good morning, morning, good morning, morning.
Good morning and welcome to the morning show on Tobago Updates Television. It's Tuesday, May 7th, 2024, and it's a wet morning, so be careful when you're going out there this morning. For those of you who are driving on our nation's roads, be sure to drive safely. Think about not only yourself, but the other drivers and pedestrians as well. Yes, thank you so much for joining us this morning. It's always a pleasure to be coming to you, bringing you information as it relates to things happening in and around Tobago. On this glorious Tuesday morning, I am Adana Kumbi, and I will be taking you through our program this morning. But before we get into it, we go straight over to News in 90 Seconds.
News in 90 Seconds is brought to you by Standards, never beaten on quality and prices.
Adana, here is your news in 90 seconds for Tuesday, May 7th, 2024. The Division of Infrastructure, Quarries and Urban Development wishes to inform the public about traffic disruption along Storby Local Road. Information and communication technology pipe and duct laying works will be carried out in the area on Wednesday, May 8th between 7 a.m. and 7 p.m. The works will take place near the Hummingbird Hotel, located east of Storby Branch Road and west of Still Cotton Trace. As a result, the section of the Storby Local Road between Storby Branch Road and Still Cotton Trace will be temporarily closed. These works are essential for the progress of the ANR International Airport Expansion Project. Up next, Minister of Energy and Energy Industry Stuart Young mentioned that the government might secure funding from the UK-based International Oil Pollution Compensation Fund to cover expenses incurred by both the government and the Tobago House of Assembly due to an oil spill off Tobago's southeast coast in February. Young shared this information during a press briefing at the ministry's office. He led a delegation to the headquarters of the International Oil Pollution Compensation Fund in London, advocating for Trinidad and Tobago to access funds to aid in the cleanup effort of the oil spill. The estimated cost thus far from the central government's perspective to range between the US $14 million to $20 million. And finally, leader of the UNC, Kamala Persad-Bissessar, has criticized Dr. Keith Rowley's administration for its lack of action to Trinidad and Tobago's recent surge in crime involving illegal firearms. Persad-Bissessar emphasized that the opposition would not support the government's proposed amendments to the Firearm Act, particularly those aimed at restricting where individuals can carry legal firearms. Speaking at a UNC meeting last night, Persad-Bissessar condemned the ongoing crime epidemic under the current government, labeling it as a top-down crime. She underscored the need for action instead of mere rhetoric, questioning the outcomes of initiatives such as the CARICOM Crime Symposium. And that was your news in 90 seconds.
Life is good with Zero. Zero interest for 6 months, zero down payments, zero stress payment plan. That's right. With Standards, my terms, we are putting the power of zero in your hands. Now, you can get that new sectional, fridge, stove, or TV for zero down. Pay zero interest later and enjoy a zero stress payment plan plus quick approval within 48 hours. Standards, never beaten on quality and prices.
We see that in the news. There's an issue there happening with the farmers and the relationship with TADCO. So we're going to have that very important conversation. Not only are we going to have that conversation, we also speak with Ricardo Alfred. He is the chairman of TADCO, and we're going to get a response from him this morning as it relates to that situation. So you want to stay locked in with us as we get to the bottom of the matter. We get the facts, we get the information, and we get the position of both parties. So stay with us. And of course, while you stay with us, we want to invite you, of course, to encourage somebody to share the live, share the live, share the live. We'll be right back.
For the many stages of your life, Tata Life.
Tobago Glass Supplies has been a leading name for over 37 years in the glass and aluminum market in Tobago. We provide an extensive range of high-quality, innovative aluminum and glass products for commercial and residential use. Competitive prices with superior and professional services by committed employees who are guided by rigid quality standards. Tobago Glass Supplies specializes in the manufacture and installation of glass and aluminum products that are essential to today's homeowners and the business environment. We are engaged in marketing, sales, and installation of a variety of products. These ranges from windows and doors to necessities such as mirrors for homes and vehicles, designed and manufactured in-house or imported.
Need a fresh start? Upgrade your life with the things you want. At Standard Distributors in Canaan, life is good with zero. Get that amazing fridge, the stylish sofa with zero down and easy financing. Your dream house is within reach. Visit Standard Distributors today. Life is good with zero.
Tipsy presents Sip and Paint, an expression of a mother's love. Join us at the Tropicist Beach Hotel, Sunday, May 12th from 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. Guests are entitled to finger foods and wine. Full package painter tickets only $600. And if you just want a sensational reggae artist, a live band, and come witness a bonfire, we've got loads of giveaways. We're catering to mom all evening. Sunday, May 12th, 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. Tropicist Beach Hotel. Come, sip and paint with Tipsy.
It's a different type of thing down there. Man, we party till we drop down there. With a lot of pretty girls down there. Down in Tobago.
Put a smile on your face when you're moving from place to place. Good morning, good morning, morning, good morning.
Welcome back to the morning show, and thank you for staying with us. We are going to start our conversation this morning with our guests who are in studio this morning. We're speaking firstly with Anil Kunkun and also Fanta Carrington. They are two farmers in Tobago affected by the recent occurrence as it relates to the relationship with TADCO. Good morning and welcome.
Good morning.
Right. We're happy to have you here to get the information, to get the facts. And so it's been in the media, it's been out there that there is a situation that has caused destruction of some of your produce from your farms, right? And so we want to have that conversation. But firstly, before we get into that aspect of it, what we want to bring to light is what is the relationship with you and TADCO? How does the system work in terms of you bringing your produce and they're storing it there? What is the established relationship between the two parties?
Well, for me, as a manager of Piers of Years Rabbitry, where we do broiler chickens and we slaughter them and store our fresh meat at TADCO to be frozen, I have been doing that since 2018 successfully. And from time to time, the blast freezer may go down under the former name TADCO SWAF. We had a supervisor there at the cold storage that would normally call us from time to time and inform us prior, or if it happened on the said day, that, the blast freezer is not working. So when you come in, you will pack your goods accordingly because we'll have to store them in the normal freezer. Normally, if we store in the blast freezer, I personally will pack whole chickens touching one another, or the parts that are stored packaged in meat trays, I will pack that in shelf baskets at 3 levels on one shelf, and we will get them successfully frozen. If for some reason the blast freezer is down, she will indicate to us to pack the whole chickens spaced out, not touching one another, and the chicken parts in the meat trays, we will normally pack those up to 2 heights, sometimes 3 on each shelf.
All right, but before we get to the actual storage, you're a farmer, and now you need some place to store your slaughtered animals. And so you go to TADCO and you say, how does that work? How do you get approval to store your products there? What is the arrangement there, the administrative aspect of it?
Well, we normally will purchase the ice the day before slaughter. Most farmers slaughter on a weekend, so you purchase the ice on Friday, you slaughter Saturday and Sunday as the case may be. You carry your fresh goods to TADCO. The workers at the bay will receive the goods, store them in the blast freezer, and by the Monday, you are able to collect and conduct sales.
Right, so what I'm trying to get at is your first transaction with TADCO. So you've just become a farmer and you have to store your stuff somewhere. Is it that you call to get permission to store? How do you develop the initial relationship with them? Is it that you have to be a registered farmer?
Well, for me, I inquired. They took my information as a potential customer. I set up an account for storage. And from there, I just called the first time and let them know I'll be storing on X day. And after that, I don't really indicate what day I'll be coming to store.
So it's an account setup type thing, and so you have the space there for your storage and stuff like that. So whenever you're going, you make your contact, you drop off your stuff. That's how it works, right?
Yes.
Right. And is there any fees at
this point? I cannot answer you. I can return here 1 hour time and we can have a conversation. I returned there with my mother within the 1 hour period. We had a conversation between 5 people. They said processing manager, the finance and accounting manager, the CEO himself, myself and my mother. We stated that after 3 days of being chilled, fresh meat being chilled, it's supposed to be frozen. Given the time that this meat inside of there, since it's Saturday, now it's Thursday, and it's still in chilled temperatures, we are going to come to the conclusion that the meat has been compromised. And we would like to be compensated at market value for the goods. This was just a verbal conversation. On Monday, I submitted a document stating the said claim about being compensated for the meat to the CEO.
I would say it's really the businesses, because they do rentals of the facility where there's a hardware there and so on. And I found that to be very disingenuous. And the reason being is because TADCO stands for Tobago Agri Development Company. It specifically speaks to agriculture and agricultural activities. And if a statement is made by the chairman, that tells us why we are in this position today, because there aren't no real interest in the farming community of Tobago. I also would have sent letters to the CEO stating that I would have received losses as well. I would have quantified it. And I have not received a response thus far. Concerning temperature, and the chairman spoke about a disclaimer that was signed. I have a document here with what he is calling a disclaimer, and I'm saying this is not a disclaimer. And this document states that I would have put in chicken inside the cold room after the ordeal on the 3rd.
3rd of May?
The 3rd of May. Right? And he said that the blast freezer is the only thing that would have been done. And I'm rebutting that, because if the blast freezer is done, then where did these goods go?
So there's no alternative for storage?
Well, there had to be an alternative because they took the goods on the 3rd.
So when did you encounter your first issue? Because if you took goods in on the 3rd, and we're saying that the blast freezer was done, I think they said on the 20th, somewhere in the end of April.
Yes,
right?
Yes.
So you took your goods in after
They took after the protest, or after when we called in the media, which was Channel 5, the day after that, they said
so you took your goods to TADCO
yes,
the day after?
The day after that. I called them and I have told them, look, I have these goods, and what am I going to do with them? You know, I have monthly baskets inside there. Another thing too, they are not even saying, well, they're going to give you back a rebate on your monthly basket. Because if you pay for a monthly basket, you expect to be serviced for that period. And if there's any disruption in service, then you ought to sit with that customer and make some arrangement as to how you could facilitate them. You know, and they have not done that.
Mr. Potts, just now, let me just ask this, right? Now, we're talking about the fact that the blast freezer went down.
Correct.
Prior to you taking your goods in on the 3rd of May.
Correct.
Now, you have this information or this knowledge that the blast freezer is down.
Correct.
Prior to taking your stuff in on the 3rd of May, and you still took your stuff there. Did you inquire or did they give you any information as to where or how it was going to be stored?
I would have called them and they would have made the necessary arrangement and told me to come for 8 o'clock to store the goods.
And you had the confidence that they would store it appropriately?
No, but they told me that room 4, they just did construction or maintenance of room 4, so that room should be good, and that is the room that they put it in. But I'm saying that if the chairman is saying that it's only the brass freezer down, that is not the truth, because there were other rooms, the holding rooms, the storage rooms, that were also down as well.
So where they put your stuff, that room was room 4.
Correct.
Right, so that room also was down as well, the operations in that room?
That was down. So when I bought that there, my goods was the only goods in there because they had just fixed it according to them.
Right, so when you put your goods in there, was it working at that point in time or was it still down?
Yes, it was working according to them.
So the goods that you took in on the 3rd of May, are they compromised or are they in good standing?
Well, I haven't been down there since after the incident. I've been back and forth in the media, so I can't say, but I would go there to check on them to see what is going on.
Considering you took it on the 3rd of May and today's the 7th, that's 4 days.
Yes.
So you have to check on your goods to ensure that we have the accurate information, so we can have this meaningful conversation. Yes. But continue with the document that you're talking to me about here.
No, but that was my statement on the document. You know, it's a receiving report, and all I was saying is that these goods had to go somewhere. And surely it did not go in the blast freezer, right? So saying that the blast freezer is the only thing that is not operational or was not operational, because by now they probably fixed it, that was not the truth. There were other rooms that were not working. My goods that got spoiled was already frozen. And there are times that I go there and the goods are thawed out. You know, and I told them about it. I told the foreman, they were there. I checked it. I said, look, feel it. It's stored.
This is prior to this current incident?
Prior to this. You know, so they are aware. You know, it's an ongoing thing where the temperature would have been going up sometime, down sometime. And I think what would have made it easier for the farmers if they call and say, well, the temperature today is not good, so don't bring goods today.
So you're saying that the primary issue here is communication. There has been no information coming forward to you in a timely manner for you to make an informed decision.
Correct.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're speaking with farmers Shaquille Potts and Fanta Carrington as it relates to storage of their goods at the TADCO facility there in Shore Park. You know, talking about the goods being compromised as a result of equipment not working. Now, we're still having this conversation, and you're saying what I'm thinking about is after the fact that the machine is not working, you still took produce there with the confidence, based on what you're saying, that they told you can bring it there and they can store it somewhere, which is room 4.
Correct.
We don't know what condition it is in now because you've not been back there since May 3rd. Today's May 7th. So you've not been back there. So we don't know what condition it is in. And you've had no calls to say, well, it is compromised or it is good or whatever. You have to go for yourself and do your own checks. Is that how it works?
Not, it works like that under TADCO. At TUCOSAF time, they would have called and they would have informed you. You know, but it seems like that is how they do business now. All
right, so this is where we are now. The situation has happened. We've made decisions, and this is where we are. You are calling now for compensation. Have you had any response in your request for compensation, any discussion at all, or any plans to have a discussion as it relates to compensation and even moving forward and maintaining your relationship with TADCO?
I'd called for a meeting and I had no response to my letter or anything of that sort.
So what are your next steps now? What are you thinking that you should do, or what do you think should happen now?
I would take it slow. My next step is to write another letter. I'm calling again for communication between myself and all the farmers by extension who are disgruntled by this situation. You know, I think that TADCO should have a conversation with us. You know, let us resolve the issue. This is not about a personal attack on anybody. The farmers feel disgruntled, we feel disenfranchised, and all we want is a simple conversation. And we can probably sit down and compromise and work out something to go forward. And if you are not having a conversation with the farmers, then a compromise can't be had. You know, and that is what we are saying. If this issue is not resolved in a meaningful way, then I may have to seek legal redress.
All right. So, in terms of did you have any compromised goods?
Yes, I had
right.
spoilage.
So, what kind of
spoilage.
Numbers we looking at? Can you quantify? Either of you, can you quantify?
My spoilage would have been.
I wouldn't say spoilage, but the goods was compromised because fresh meat can be stored up to 3 days chilled. After that, it must be frozen. In my case, when I returned there, I put them there this Saturday. When I returned Monday, they were still chilled. They moved them from room 2 to room 4 with the expectation of getting them frozen. When I got there on Thursday, the goods was in the same chill conditions. That is when I asked to speak with the CEO. After the meeting, both parties agree that, well, the CEO asked the processing manager to check the goods and give him a report. I told him that I would like to be there when she's checking the goods. That was done on the Friday. At that point in time, the goods was still in chill conditions. Very soft to the touch.
And this is how many days?
We're looking at Thursday to the next Friday.
So, and you're saying
Saturday the 20th.
And you're saying that after 3 days, the meat is compromised, and now we're talking about
if it's not
frozen, and now we're talking about 7 days. So, what is the status now? Because you're saying there's no spoilage. So, what is the status between after 3 days up to where we are 7 days? What is the status now?
At that point, he asked the processing manager to check the meat. I asked that I be there when she's doing that. I made myself available afternoon on Friday, and the meat was still soft. I cannot say that the meat spoiled. Somebody from health will have to come in and do the necessaries. But with the information that we have, after 3 days of just being chilled, the meat will be compromised. And I, for sure, will not be taking that meat to sell to my customers, to tarnish my good name. I have made a name for myself.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're speaking with farmer Shakil Potts. He's the managing director of Pro Farms Limited, and Fanta Carrington, Peers of Airs Rabbitry, the manager there, talking about the issue that took place there at TADCO. That goes, and we will of course keep you updated.
At JK Tech, we bring technology to your doorstep. From cutting-edge laptops to reliable printers, we've got it all. Nationwide delivery and a new website for easy online ordering. JK Tech is your one-stop shop for your electronics and computer needs. Carrying top brands such as Acer, Samsung, HP, and much more. Follow us on Facebook and Instagram at JKTechTT or visit jktechtt.com. Quality tech is just a click away. JK Tech. Evaluate your shopping experience, your tech, your way. Call or WhatsApp 383-2651. Shop smart, shop JK Tech.
Tobago, baby.
When we outside, it's an ocean of love. All that we align to the stars up above. Let we dance now, take a chance now with me. And we go jump till morning. Look, the moon gone sleeping. Tell them we not leaving. Till the last drop of a canal is madness in the capital. So I feel like I'm running tongue again. Jump and shake the ground again. Wave with all my friends and them. No place like home. We go jump till the moon come down. It's we who the stars shine on. Clear Mars and break away. Freedom in with DNA.
Put a smile on your face when you're moving from place to place. Good morning, good morning, morning, good morning, morning.
Welcome back to the morning show on Tobago Updates, and thank you for staying with us. We are going to continue this discussion this morning, and right now we're speaking with Ricardo Alfred, and he is the chairman of TADCO, and of course we're going to get his response to the situation that is happening there and to all that came forth from the farmers who declared that they have, recorded losses as a result of spoilage from their goods being stored at the facility there at TADCO. Good morning and welcome.
Yes, good morning. Good morning, Tobago.
Right. So, of course, we're happy to have you here so that we can have a balanced conversation as it happens. So it's out there. Farmers have declared that they came to the facility to store their goods and they were told that the equipment is not working, the blast freezer, where they usually store goods in preparation for sales. They have also claimed that there was no communication prior to them coming there, and so they were caught off guard. Some of them have claimed that they had goods storing there and they were not up to the temperature, I suppose it's freeze, for them to prepare to sell. We want to get your position on this because what they are claiming is that the primary thing is the lack of communication with them. They have walked us through their experience, so we'd like to hear from you now what has happened from your end of this whole scenario.
Right, so good morning again, and it is very important that we bring a lot of context into this, So I was informed that the blast freezer, and just to make it clear, TADCO has a series of cold rooms, a chiller, and a blast freezer. There are 4 cold rooms, the chiller, and a blast freezer. The blast freezer's sole purpose is that when stuff come into the compound at a warm or not desirable temperature to go into the storage, it is blast freeze and then it goes into storage. That is how it works. So that's how the refrigeration system works. Taking something from a warm temperature and putting it into a cold room at -10 will definitely affect the temperatures because it's a heat transfer and we have to understand the refrigeration process. So the heat will affect those rooms. I was informed that the blast freezer was not.
Before you move forward, right? So the process is you bring in your goods, they go to the blast freezer and then to storage.
Yes, some people have stuff to chill, right? And then you have persons who have stuff that we maintain in the cold storage after thing, because TADCO has the largest cold storage compound on the island.
Right.
We're talking about Chef Barbecue, we're talking about all these major persons that I'm not seeing in the media today. Royal Castle, all these people store with us.
Other clients?
Other clients.
Right. Okay.
On Friday, I would have received a call that there was no water on the compound, in which we were in several communications with WASA, in which I had to send the staff home, right? And that is what happened on Friday. I'm not the security protocol is that when there's no operation happening on the compound is closed and they maintain security. I'm not aware of any other issues. I was informed the blast freezer was not working. This has to go through a procurement procedure. As you understand that the Procurement Act is now in place, we have to go through OPR and that type of thing. It is not a case where in the past we could have choose someone and come in and fix it. That is no longer the case. They must go through the proper channels to get this thing done. A group of persons would have tendered, a group of persons would have been evaluated, and then someone is chosen, and then the freezer, I am told, will be up and running by Thursday. That's the blast freezer. Prior to persons coming into the compound, when we know that they are stocking up and planning to do slaughter, the conversation did happen with them when they got the ice. I am told by my foreman, and I have to trust the word of the foremen. I cannot deny anything different from the foreman. Same Friday, I would have received a text to my phone from a farmer saying, and I want to read what the text said actually, so that we are very clear on what that text is said. The text would have said, there will be a protest at TADCO at 3 p.m. We are calling on all farmers to attend. Cool room was shut down completely, and no goods will be stored, as well as farmers have a lot of spoilage. I am the chairman of TADCO, and I received that message.
A farmer sent this message to you?
Yes. So my response was like, but how is it that the cold storage system shut down and spoilage? If persons do not get certain things addressed at the CEO level, at the management level, they are fully aware that they can write me directly, and then I will get involved. Once it affects the operation of the company, I will get involved. I am not aware of all of these allegations about some worker the person mentioned in the past, and I'm not aware of all of those things. I don't get involved in them things. All of them have my contact. I have had several meetings with them. We had a lot of non-crisis meetings in terms of the direction in which TADCO could have gone forward. I have no ill feelings towards anyone, because all of them were part of the poultry program, and when that poultry program continues, they are all going to be part of it. But at the end of the day, persons must understand the procedure. And there was communication from the time they buy the ice, letting them know, hey, we're having some issues there. And so I don't want to get too involved in it, because...
So I want to understand the process, right? You're telling me about buying ice and you're talking about a blast freezer. I am not a farmer.
Oh, sorry. Right,
and I don't know how the process is.
Right.
So is it that they have to purchase the ice?
When you slaughter an animal, from that slaughter onset, it normally goes into some, after it's killed and cleaned and bagged, they normally have coolers.
Right.
And it is chilled by the ice.
This is by the farmers, before they bring it.
Before they bring it to the...
I'm on the same page with you now.
So they chill it down to bring down the temperature, so it comes to the compound and they blast freeze.
Right.
And stuff like that. Now, we at TADCO have to understand one thing. We are here not just to help a certain group of people. The name of the company is Agribusiness Development Company, and Tobago being the first name of that acronym. We have to understand that as Tobagonians, we have to know exactly where we are, and as relates to agriculture in Trinidad and Tobago. I am a registered farmer. I have a farm. I am involved in livestock, short-term, long-term. I would have recently built a greenhouse that is showing great involvements, and at the end of the day, I understand what they are saying, but I don't want people to say that there wasn't any communication at all, because when I received that text message, the first thing I did was to speak to the CEO to get abreast as to what is really happening. And I, since that blast freezer being done, I personally go down there from 5 in the morning, at 10, then I go back at 2, and then I come back at 10 in the night to see the temperatures of the other rooms. I'm talking about -10, some rooms say -12. I go and check. The only room that is done is the blast freezer.
And so when the farmers come and they purchase the ice now to store their meats, is in preparation to bring to blast freeze.
Yes.
At the point of purchasing the ice is when they are informed the blast freezer isn't working?
They would have had conversations with some foreman, and foreman would have told them, listen, we're having some issues there with the blast freezer. If you want to slaughter, just know that we will try to assist her. And we did try to assist. The gentleman before would have said that on the same Friday, in which we had conversation with him, in which I'm told that the CEO had a conversation with him after 1 day, letting them know, listen, we will try to assist you, come back at 8 in the night to try to assist you. So I was most blown away when I saw that text that came to my phone. And they came back and store with us. So it is beating me, to understand what are we really discussing today. It is very puzzling to me. And at the end of the day, it is not an issue of communication. It is an issue of The compressor that runs that blast freezer, the windings damaged, right? Which is an electrical issue. So definitely, you know, we'll have to put some voltage monitors on all of the systems. Before coming into operation, they will have to do some gas leaks in which the system is filled with UV liquid. You have a special type of glasses, you have a special type of light to check for different leaks. You have things like expansion valves. I understand the system very well now. And I tell you, I was mostly shocked by the text, and now I'm seeing persons are saying that they just happen to just turn up down there, you know.
So, my understanding again, the farmers, they slaughter the animals, they have them on ice, and then they bring them to blast freeze. When they came to purchase the ice, they were informed that the blast freezer is not working. However, we'll try to accommodate you. There are other storage rooms, is what you're saying, that can accommodate the animals after they've slaughtered them in preparation for sale.
When the rooms are at -10 and -12, depending on the temperature that it comes in with, because one of the things that they would have implemented is for them to check the temperature so that we record everything before it goes into the our rooms. And the idea behind it really is to have the conversation with them before, because at the end of the day, they are a Tobago brand, and I have no issues with them. It's a Tobago brand. I mean, I have been traversing between Trinidad and Tobago for the last 21 years, you know, on this ferries. I know exactly what comes Tobago. From first hand, I know exactly what comes Tobago. So when this poultry program was implemented, I felt so good to know that people like Church's Chicken and all these different people were buying their chicken. And that is what we are trying to do. We are in the process now of getting a slaughtering plant to assist them further.
Right, so what I want to clarify, earlier in the discussion, you mentioned that if it's too warm, walk me through that aspect of it, because you're saying after they slaughter the animals, they come to get ice to chill the animals.
The ice is before.
So they buy the ice and then they slaughter.
Yes,
so they can.
Yeah, some people, you would have their workers starting the slaughtering process, where you would have some other group or something getting the ice, so that when it's slaughtered and whatever, it goes into the coolers, chilled with ice, and then it comes down to the compound.
And then you also spoke about some animals being at a different temperature, which is a bit warmer?
No, depending on the temperature they bring it at.
So it's up to the farmers to determine how they're going to bring in the animals.
I know someone was talking about, you know, that the person before, she mentioned that meat can store up to 3 days or something.
At chilled temperature.
At chilled temperature. I don't want to start that conversation. However, what I would say is that when it comes to the compound, we check the temperature before with our temperature gun, and then it goes into the blast freezer. If they want it chill, it can go into the chill mist for them to decide on what they want. But because of the issue with the blast freezer, we were trying to assist person in the best way possible.
By using the other storage
equipments purchase.
And
they would have equipments purchase.
And
they would have signed to that, right? They would have signed to that.
They would have signed to that at the point when the blast freezer went down?
Yes.
And how long has the blast freezer been down?
The blast freezer went down, based on my information, on the 16th of April.
The 16th of April, the blast freezer went down, and they were aware of this from since the 16th of April.
I don't want to get, for me, I don't get involved in the operational part. When the blast freezer came down, that's when I would have found out what was happening. As to the operational part, who comes on the compound and that type of, and what they talk to the foreman, I don't get involved.
All right, so the farmers now are asking for compensation, right? They're asking for conversation and communication. In your view, as the chairman, what is the way forward? What is your strategy, and how are we going to move forward with this situation?
I want to do everything via paperwork, because we're talking about public funds. If the farmers have an issue and they're not getting some sort of agreement or some sort of arrangement through the management level, they are free to write me, in which they have done. And I would come in and have a meeting with them, and we try to solve the issue. Until then, I'm not going to get involved, because that's an operational part of it, right? I'm not going to get involved in that part of it. Only when they write me on an issue and I find out, then I can have the meeting with them.
They have said that they've written. Is it not you that they wrote to? You have not received?
As I said, I cannot get involved because I don't. I'm hearing it on the news here, right? And I don't want to get too involved. I'm not sure what's happening at the operational level. However, if they find that there's not getting the address that they want, they are free to write me. Persons have written to me on issues, and we have had meetings, and we try to solve the issue.
So once the correspondence comes to you, you will respond to it and have an audience with the relevant parties?
Because then now I would have all the facts together in terms of the investigation. Mind you that, I am also an investigator of marine stuff, so I do investigations for a living, in which you have to hear all of the stories, look at the facts, because all of the temperatures are recorded by the security and by the staff down there, so that they must coincide. If there's an issue, because that is the system that we would have set up, someone would have spoke about the fees being changed. I want people to understand that when we came to TADCO, 29 cents per kilogram, and I would have saw an electric bill of over $1 million. My mandate as the chairman that was given to me was to make the company profitable. So we would have embarked on a series of stuff. We would have increased the rent because it was definitely below the way the market value, bring it to an acceptable rate at $8 per square foot. We would have increased our ice. We would have definitely bring back the capital of Paradise into operation. I am actually seeing marginal trends from where we were in 2022 to 2023 and currently in 2024. And that is how I am looking at things as relates to that part.
Well, we're hoping to see some measure of resolve coming from this situation from both parties. The chairman here of TADCO, Mr. Ricardo Alfred, bringing his version of what happened and the conversations that have been transpiring between the two parties, and we're hoping that some resolve can come in the soonest possible time. And his way forward, as he mentioned, is once communication is received by him, he will have an audience with the persons, the farmers who have been affected by this situation. We too are hoping to hear how this situation is resolved. We thank you so much for staying with us right throughout the end of this program. This is where we have to end. Mr. Alfred, thank you so much for coming on the program this morning and bringing that measure of insight. Thank you to the farmers also for bringing their perspective, and we do hope to get some measure of resolve where this is concerned, and we urge you to stay tuned with us as we bring the information to you. And this is where we have to end the morning show on Tobago Updates Television. I am Adana Kumbi, and I thank you so much for staying with us. We don't end our program in here. We head on over to GMT, so we do hope that you stay with us, and as you stay, of course, share the live, share the live, share the live.
The target audience for this seminar would have been agro-processors, persons involved in whether it's seasoning, production and so on, as well as natural resource-based enterprises. So whether it was farmers that would be producing growing products that would lend themselves to product development. Right, so we're bringing those partners together so that they'll be able to get the information that is required to produce a quality product. This is an opportunity to understand where they fit in the value chain and what the supply chain requires, so that they will better be able to build their product to be able to access these markets better, whether it's the tourism market or the export market, by tapping into resources that are available from these different support agencies, and of course from perhaps the farmers and so on, so that their product would be of a better quality to increase their competitiveness on the export market.
Ready to export means that there's no double standards. It's one standard. So if you need to be able to get to the export market, you start the business right. And the right parts are, if you can access an export market in terms of all of the requirements, safety, quality, everything, if you can access a market outside, it means that you are ready to sell locally, and it means that you can build your ability to meet the export market. It is not easy as a small producer to get onto the export market because you have large and big brands. But one of the sessions we had yesterday spoke about very small to small trade categories. And we know agri-SMEs are very small. So it means that there is an opportunity for them to export on under the very small to small trade category, but it also means that they have to meet some basic standards, and that is a message today. Once you meet those standards, whether you're small or very small, there is a space for you on the export market.
I think a lot of people are just kind of focused on the local market, but showing them the possibilities of exporting and what it takes to actually export is a great eye-opener. This session is really great in terms of informing us about the options available for financing, informing us about information that will take us to the next level, and how to make our businesses sustainable.
One of the areas which I think is very important moving forward for farmers and processors is the session on the green value chain, led by the Cropper Foundation, and how businesses can be a bit more sustainable in our processes, from both ends, producers and agro-processors. So that particular area, I think that we need to hear a lot more of, especially in the Tobago space, where we are about preserving our natural environment.
Really and truly, I have not regretted coming to have it done, because it was quite informative in that stuff that we can access. It's a networking where we can meet the different farmers and what they offer and be able to get our byproducts.
That was a production of the Department of Information, Office of the Chief Secretary, Tobago House of Assembly.
No place like home, home, home.
Oh, I love Tobago, baby.
When we outside, it's an ocean of love. All that we align to the stars up above. Let we dance now, take a chance now with me. And we go jump till morning. Look, the moon gone sleeping. Tell them we not leaving. Till the last drop of bacchanal is madness in the capital. So I feel like I'm running tongue again. Jump and shake the ground again. We with all my friends and them. No place like home. 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 We go jump till the moon come down. It's we who the stars shine on. Play a mass and break away. Freedom in with DNA.
And welcome to Good Morning Tobago right here on Tobago Updates. Guys, I am your host, Chanel Felix, and I am too happy, too blessed to be back here on the screen with you this morning. You guys know when you see me here, it's because we're going to have those conversations that you want to have while I ask those questions that you won't ask. Now, this morning, I'm not just back as Chanel, but as Mommy Chanel, and taking some time off to be a new mom has been quite a blessing for me. And I want to thank each and every person who have reached out and sent congratulations. Everyone who has said that they missed me here on Tobago Updates, I am happy to say that I am back. Guys, this morning we're going to be having some really interesting conversations about some situations that have been occurring in the media. This morning we have Senator Jayanti Lakshmidiyal Ramdal, and we are going to be talking about that Auditor General report. But before we even get into that, we're going to have your news in 90 seconds.
News in 90 seconds is brought to you by Standards, never beaten on quality and prices.
The Division of Infrastructure, Quarries and Urban Development wishes to inform the public about traffic disruptions along the Tobago local road. Information and communication technology pipes and docks laying work will be carried out in the areas on Wednesday, May the 8th between 7 a.m. and 7 p.m. The work will take place near the Hummingbird Hotel, located east of Tobago Branch Road and west of Silcotton Trace. As a result, the section of Tobago Local Road between Tobago Branch Road and Silcotton Trace will be temporarily closed. These works are essential for the progress of the A&R Robinson International Airport expansion project. Additionally, Minister of Energy and Energy Industry Stuart Young mentioned that the government might secure funding from UK-based International Oil Pollution Compensation Funds to cover expenses incurred by both the government and the Tobago House of Assembly due to the oil spill of Tobago's southeast coast in February. Young shared this information during a press briefing at the ministry's office. He led a delegate to the headquarters of the International Oil Pollution Compensation Funds in London, advocating for Trinidad and Tobago to access funds to aid in the cleanup efforts of the oil spill. The estimated cleanup cost thus far, from the central government's perspective, to range between US $14 to $20 million. And that was your news in 90 seconds.
Life is good with Zero. Zero interest for 6 months. Zero down payments. Zero stress payment plan. That's right. With Standards, My Terms, we are putting the power of zero in your hands. Now, you can get that new sectional, fridge, stove, or TV for zero down. Pay zero interest later and enjoy a zero stress payment plan plus quick approval within 48 hours. Standards, never beaten on quality and prices.
Okay, good morning and welcome back. As I would have stated earlier, this morning we are talking about the Auditor General's report. And if you have not been following, let me give you a bit of an update. So the Auditor General, who is Jayanti Ramdal, has issued the Auditor General report, which has stated that there have been a $2.6 billion that has been unaccounted for by the current government. Now, there has been somewhat of a back and forth between the Auditor General's office and the office of the Minister of Finance, which is Mr. Colin Imbert. And so that back and forth has been taking place for the last couple of days, and we have been hearing a lot about this. And this morning, as we discuss this a bit further and get into some of the details, we're going to have with us Senator Jayanti Lakshmidiyal Ramdal to have this conversation with me this morning. And we're going to get into the functions of the Auditor General's office and their real role in really holding the government to account where it comes to financial accountability. Now, if you don't know, the Office of the Auditor General is really an independent body that is in place to hold the government accountable for how they spend public funds. And in a situation where funds cannot be accounted for, it is the job of the Auditor General to come forth and let it be known to the public in their Auditor General's report. So we're going to get into this and much more this morning in our conversation. So I want to welcome this morning my guest on screen. Good morning to you, Senator. How are you?
Hi, good morning, and thank you very much for having me.
All right, it's good to have you this morning as well. Now, we want to give people a little bit of a background because there are persons watching who may not have been following the situation. So this might be the first they're hearing about it, or even if they heard about it, they're not really too sure what exactly is going on and what are some of the serious economic implications of the situation that we're seeing happening right now.
All right, so let's start from the beginning. In the most basic way, anyone who runs a business would understand that you have your internal accounting where you record the money that you make, you record your expenses, you have your profit and loss account or whatever you call it, you have a balance sheet reflecting your assets and so on. That's exactly what the government has, and that's what the Ministry of Finance through the Treasury, that's what they do, right? At the end of the day, you must have receipts, records, some sort of documentation to substantiate what you are saying is your revenue and what you are saying would be your expenditure. The government is exactly the same. You must have that documentation present. The public accounts of the country, all of the money that we make and all of the money that we spend is similarly produced in what we call the public accounts. And just as a businessman, if you want to go to the bank, they will ask you for audited accounts. The government also has to produce audited accounts by law. And the Auditor General is the auditor of the country, basically. So just as you would have to get as a business person, you have to get your accounts audited if you want to carry audited accounts. It's audited accounts prepared and have to have this report of the Auditor General. The law lays out a very strict timetable in terms of how you must produce your accounts as the government, what is the timeline for submitting it for audit, and what is the timeline and the deadline by which the Auditor General must then submit their report. That department must submit their report. An audit has to be very independent because you are operating as a check and balance to make sure that nobody has fudged the accounts, basically. That's what an audit is, whether you're dealing with a business or whether you're dealing on a macro level of the country. The deadline by law for the accounts to be sent to the Auditor General is the 31st of January every single year. And by the 30th of April, the Auditor General must complete her audit, write her report, and send it to the Minister of Finance as well as to the Parliament, and it's supposed to be laid. That has been happening every year, time immemorial, since we have become a country. When this year the public accounts were submitted on the 31st of January, sometime thereafter, the Ministry of Finance saying that due to some new system with the central bank, there was an error and that the amount of revenue that they declared in those public accounts was actually understated by some $3.2 billion. And they wanted to be able to submit additional information and amend the public accounts so that the Auditor General would now be considering accounts where there was $3.2 billion more in revenue and wanted the accounts to reflect that. The Auditor General said to them, I have a deadline of the 31st of January to receive these accounts. I don't know if I could take amended accounts after that date because the law says the accounts shall be sent by that date and that's what I'm supposed to be working with. She reached out to the Attorney General for an opinion, which again is in the law. It says the Attorney General shall render an opinion on anything to do with the interpretation of the law. The Attorney General at that point said, well, I'm advising the Minister of Finance on this matter, so go and get a legal opinion somewhere else. And thereafter, we had, are you hearing me? I'm sorry. Hello?
I am hearing you clearly.
Okay, all right, good. I was fine and I wasn't hearing myself. Yes, the Auditor General, then there was some back and forth and a pre-action protocol letter, which is basically a threat of legal action, was issued to the Auditor General. And the Auditor General thereafter decided, okay, I will receive the accounts. So she received these amended accounts, but she went ahead and documented a series of concerns that she had, meaning that apart from just changing the figures, there was no reflection, according to what she's saying, as to where those amendments were taking place. And the documentation, remember when I started this, I said you must have your documentation to show where you earn the money, how you spend money. There was an absence of documentation in relation to a substantial amount of the revenue that the government was claiming. So as of when the matter came to the Parliament, I think $780 million was still unaccounted for. The Auditor General proceeded to have meetings, apparently. This is what we are now learning, with the persons from Central Bank, from the Board of Inland Revenue, the Treasury, etc. And she prepared her report and sent it on the 24th of April to the Parliament and the Minister of Finance, detailing what transpired, the fact that amended accounts were submitted after the deadline to her, that she did consider it, but there were certain things that she wasn't really satisfied with because of the absence of the documentation. The government has now come to the Parliament and decided that, look, you see that 31st of January deadline, we're going to extend it. And you see that 30th of April deadline to submit the Auditor General's report, we are going to extend it. And that is, they are saying, to give them an opportunity to provide documentation to substantiate these claims of additional revenue, as well as to satisfy the Auditor General about some of the expenditure. Because on the expenditure side, remember, you have revenue and you have expenditure, right? On the expenditure side, there's also about $1 billion of money spent that the Auditor General said there isn't sufficient documentation regarding, those types of things. So it's expenditure from different ministries and, whatever it is. Well, we don't have the reports. Now, a big part of this controversy is that, one, respect for the rule of law. The rule of law says that certain things have to be done. And one of the reasons why you have the process of laying the Auditor General's report is so that it can be scrutinized by the Parliament, by the elected representatives of the people. They can go to the Parliament and look at the report. It could be made public. The media can have access to it once it is laid. And all of these areas where monies are being spent, where there's no proper documentation, etc., the people, everybody, any average citizen of the country can pick it up, look at it, and have an opportunity to ask questions about it. But it's also important to show our international partners who we borrow money from. Just like, as I said, a businessman going to the bank, you carry audited accounts. If the government wants to borrow money, they must produce the Auditor General's report, and people will be looking at these things. When you are trying now to extend time and these questions are being raised about documentation to support revenue and expenditure, and you essentially decide you're going to prevent a completed report from seeing the light of day in the Parliament, because that's what they've essentially done, and almost force the Auditor General to now reopen a process that was completed and that she completed, then that raises serious questions about governance and about the rule of law in our country. Separate and apart from that, I think a big concern that everybody has is, how does a $3.2 billion error occur in the preparation of the public accounts?
And that's where I was going with my next question. So thank you for giving us the background on the situation that's currently happening with the Auditor General report. But what the minister would have stated is that due to this new digital system, this is where the error had come from. So tell us, this digital system, was it implemented last year in 2023?
Details have been very scarce, but what they are saying is that the central bank implemented a new check clearing system, and that, yes, it's the first time that this system is being used, and that is what led to the error. It's quite a big error to happen. In accounting, I am not an accountant, but I do believe that if you have, digitalized systems and so on, it's possible to have errors.
Okay, so has any evidence been presented? Has any evidence been presented to the Parliament?
No, we can only... No, not at all. We could only rely on what is being said by the minister. The central bank has been completely silent, and it's really the minister who has proffered this explanation. I would have hoped, and I would think that in the process of between when the issue arose and it was brought to the Auditor General's attention sometime in February or March, and her preparation of her ultimate report, that a discussion would have taken place about between persons from the central bank and her department, as well as Inland Revenue and other people, about this new system and where the glitch occurred, basically, and that they would have been attempting to fix it. But the fact is that by the deadline, they weren't able to produce, the sufficient documentation for a large sum of the money. There's a memoranda written from the Ministry of Finance to the Auditor General saying that, okay, well, so far we've been able to account for 2-point-something billion, but there's still like a $780 million that remains outstanding. And that's what the Auditor General is saying her report reflected. Of course, we don't see the report. The fact that the reason behind the glitch, that to me has, and whatever transpired and whoever missed the issue, to me that should be the subject of some independent investigation. And we keep hearing the minister saying that there will be an investigation, but nobody knows what he's investigating, because what's coming out from the Minister of Finance and the Attorney General's mouth every time they speak is more about it seems more targeted towards trying to blame the Auditor General for not simply accepting their amended accounts and not simply, taking it as, or for whatever she decided to write in her report, or not coming back to them. They are not dealing with the core issue of this missing revenue that they could not account for, and the expenditure as well, because we haven't really heard anything on the expenditure side. $1 billion of money, public money, is being spent without proper documentation is a very serious concern as well.
Definitely it is. And one of the issues is that the entire issue of this Auditor General report has now been reported and a bit sensationalized in the media as being the Office of the Attorney General versus the Ministry of Finance, where the real issue here is the monies that are unaccounted for, and how does this affect the economy of Trinidad and Tobago as well as our international financial standing. So tell us a bit about how issues like this have a negative impact on our financial ratings internationally and ultimately the economic status of the country.
Well, the impact would be, as I said, just as any business, you go to a bank to get a loan, you produce your audited accounts, they would look at, your processes and how you are managing your finances. It's the same thing. If we want to borrow, which we do, we borrow money to finance, public projects and so on, developmental projects. International credit rating agencies would be looking at our public accounts and scrutinizing them. They would be looking at the Auditor General's reports and wanting to see, well, what is reflected there. And now, right now, there is no report because it's not being laid in the Parliament. And so it can have a negative effect on our credit ratings. Something that can also affect your ability to borrow and your credit ratings is the government's, obedience to law and order and the rule of law and our Constitution. The Constitution being the supreme law of the land, in my opinion, has been breached by this course of action adopted to basically reopen an audit process that was completed without properly addressing the audit process. The law also provides that you can do supplemental reports. I think that's something that people aren't focusing on enough, that the option, if you can account for the expenditure and the revenue later on and provide the documentation, the option is there for the Auditor General to lay a supplemental report. The law is very specific about that because the law doesn't contemplate that you can go back and change things. If I went to the bank and I told them, I produced a report to them and I said, these are my accounts and this is the revenue I made for 2023. And then I asked for a loan. And then I go back in a new account and say, I find some money. Like, I found additional revenue and I didn't have the proper documentation. What would the bank look at me and think? They would think, well, what's going on with you? You just want to change your report? I mean, are the auditors who audited your original accounts, are they satisfied with this? And if the auditor is saying they're not satisfied, are they going to want to lend me money? Probably not. And that's part of the problem that the government is going to have right now. They have to clean up the international reputation of the country that has been tainted by this entire TADCO. Finance is not really my background, but I mean, I know how basic assessments are done by people who are in that field and how they would look at something like this. And I think that anytime you're assessing a country, a government's adherence to the rule of law and to their own laws and their own regulations is something that anybody would be looking at. Any international organization that considers lending money to a country or considers investing, and international investors. If I want to invest, there's something like all these international organizations, like Transparency International, they would put out reports every year on our different bodies rating your compliance with the law, how you operate, whether things are being followed. And if any multinational country wants to invest in Trinidad and Tobago and they see a government that is willing to flaunt the law and to get around, to breach their own constitution, in my respectful view, in order to arrive at a position that they want to be in and that they want to now correct errors that have been made and so on. As an investor, I think that would weigh heavily on my mind, and I will assess the country.
And this is where we want to go with the rest of the discussion, because a motion was laid in the Parliament on Friday. But we'll take a quick break and we'll be back and we'll go discuss this a bit further. So see you guys soon right after this break.
It's a brand new morning, rise up to a brand new dawn.
Never ever worry. Never ever worry.
She ride the wave, come jump in the range, and jump funny that she want your money mean. Don't need your love, that can cost me 50 pay. Like King Solomon, and bag a girl to me name. Every girl broke out, Lord, broke out. Me say hot girl, and that's your time to step out. Big bumper girl, your time to get scrub out. Hand on your knee, you girl, and your body.
And every girl I get wild out tonight. Party in my out tonight. If she suck, me a fine out tonight. I you know what a wild out tonight. Out the blue light, I try out the back.
Welcome back to Good Morning Tobago, guys. I am Chanel Felix, and this morning we have been speaking with Senator Jayanti Lakshmidiyal Ramdal. I want to make sure and get that correctly. So thank you again, Senator, for joining us. And this morning we have been speaking about the Auditor General report and the issue of the Office of the Auditor General being under attack. This morning we have spoken extensively about the role of the Auditor General and the implications of issues like this on the economy and our international credit rating. But on Friday we saw that the government went to the Parliament to pass a motion to allow for an extension of the time for the submission of documents. And right before we took the break, Senator was going a bit into what this means for the country when the government goes to the Parliament to, as she said, change the rules in their favor. We'll allow her to discuss this a bit further, but one of the comments that we have gotten is that it is in the government's right to make these type of changes when the Constitution does not adequately support what they are trying to do. So you can also comment on that as well.
I think that it's the government's right has to be to try to justify their revenue and expenditure and so on. They have a right to do it, but I think it must be done within the parameters of the law. The law provides that you can extend the time, but you can't wait until the entire process is completed and you're not happy with what the report reflects to then come and extend the report, because the Auditor General's department is supposed to be independent. And you can't be independent if somebody is basically forcing you to go now and change your report, and they are saying they want additional time to change the accounts and get you to change your report. I kept saying that one of the reasons why I think that this whole thing got so out of hand and turns out to be an embarrassment for the government and by extension the country, is because the Attorney General failed to act in a timely manner and to discharge his duties and functions. And his duty at the moment when it became obvious that the accounts submitted on the 31st of January were not, that there was an error, or the government says there was an error, he should have brought the motion to extend the time so that the Auditor General could legally receive the accounts, and then the process of the audit could have been completed. If they couldn't complete it by the 30th of April, they could have extended it. The report now having been completed and laid, I don't think that it's proper for them to now turn around and say, okay, scrap that report, we're going back. We're going back into the process all over again. It's not proper and it's not in compliance with the law. As I said before, the law also provides that the report can go forward and go to the Parliament and go before what we have in the Parliament called the Public Accounts Committee. And if there's a need for a supplemental report and there are changes later on that the Auditor General needs to make based on documentation, because the ministry at this point should be continuously working to try to find the 780 million that's still unaccounted for and find the documentation and fix all of the errors that have been identified, or errors and I guess missing documentation or whatever it is. And if they can provide that to the Auditor General, she can do the supplemental report, which will also come to the Parliament and will also become public and will also be available to all of our international partners and credit rating agencies and lending institutions and so on. So why the need for things to be shielded and hidden and the report stopped? I made the comment in the Parliament, and of course they jump up and said it's irrelevant, but I think it's very relevant that this is reminiscent of a situation where the Police Service Commission, which is an independent organization, completed an entire process and produced a merit list. And then based on some information the government had that nobody else had, they decided to withdraw the merit list and pull it back and not have it go forward to the Parliament with the recommendations and so on. You can't run a country based on whim and what you like and how you believe things should be done and the information that you alone have and how you want things to appear when they become public. You have to follow the law. Even the government is not the law, the law is there and the government must follow the law because they too are subject of the law. You can't have a lawful society if you have a lawless government, and a government that chooses to ignore things because it's inconvenient to them and reflects badly on them. They lose their authority to govern in the eyes of citizens. And I think that a lot of that has been happening, because when citizens of a country can question, well, how could you just come and change the rules and move the goalposts to suit yourself, whether it is a merit list, an audit report, or whatever it is, you really lose a lot of your credibility when it comes to governance.
Point, because there are a lot of persons who are saying that this Auditor General is an anti-PNM auditor. But why is it important for people not to make these type of assumptions for the independence of the office?
My experience with the public service, especially people who hold that level of office in the public service, is that they are very straight public servants. At the end of the day, people in all spheres of one of the things that public officers are not allowed to do still is to openly show political preference and support. So, for example, you're not going to see a public servant running for elections or something like that, right? Or openly supporting or appearing on a political platform to speak. That's not something that's done. But you can't prevent people from having a thing. I think this whole thing about the Auditor General being anti-PNM arose because of her choice of legal representation. That too I find to be a very petty and weak argument, because at the end of the day, there are hundreds of public servants who choose to go the route of having to challenge their employer, which is the government, and there aren't that many lawyers who do that type of law and who do public law. The history of Trinidad and Tobago will show many senior level public servants having issues with government, whether it comes to promotion. They are sometimes vetoed when by the Prime Minister when they are appointed to certain office and so on, and they wish to challenge it. And they would have gone the same route and chosen the same legal representation as Miss Ramdas. And I don't think that something like that is sufficient to just cast aspersions on someone who is discharging their function. So far, I don't think anyone has pointed to the Auditor General not doing her job, or any specific instance of her not doing her job. There were some allegations of she didn't respond in a timely manner, not answering the phone, not getting back in touch with people, that kind of thing. I don't know that that's enough to infer that somebody is anti-government. If she breached the law in any respect, that should have been dealt with.
Sorry, can you hear me?
Yeah, I'm hearing you now. Sorry.
Oh, sorry about that. When we look at these offices that are supposed to be independent, just as you said previously with the Police Service Commission, we've seen political interference in the past. So is it really that far-fetched for members of the public to think that this has something to do with politics?
Well, I mean, whether it has something to do with politics, it has to do. No, it's not far-fetched for people to infer now that if people in independent institutions are performing their functions and the government isn't happy with it, there seems to be, or happy with the results of it, there seems to be a trend on their part to get involved and to change the process, or to interfere, or to change people out. Not too long before the Integrity Commission
about that, we're having a bit of technical difficulties in connecting with the senator. Yes, but guys, if you have now joined us, we have been discussing the Auditor General report here on Tobago Updates. Good morning, Tobago. We started off our discussion by taking a look at the role and the function of the Auditor General and the current situation that we've been facing. I know we have the senator back with us. Thank you. We had a
sorry
bit of
about that, some connection difficulties. Yes. Yeah, so I was making the point that, whether people want to look at this as being political and a political attack, it does appear to be a political attack, because the government wants to push their own narrative about what transpired, and the Auditor General's report doesn't support that narrative. The government has been very vocal about their management of the economy and trying to suggest that they have done a very exceptional job in terms of increasing revenue and with accountability and so on. They have been under attack on many fronts about transparency and accountability with respect to expenditure and so on. So they, I think that having an Auditor General's report that doesn't reflect the narrative that they are trying to create certainly doesn't serve their interests, especially going into an election year. People sometimes, I would say, it's an unfortunate thing that a lot of people have political allegiances one way or the other, and not much will affect their mindset coming into an election. But in an election year, you do have a handful, a part of the population that would very clearly scrutinize the performance of a government in terms of their management of finances and the economy, how transparent they have been, whether there have been allegations of corruption and mismanagement of public monies and so on and so forth. And Auditor General reports is very important to that kind of thing. So if the government wants to further their agenda of, making themselves appear very transparent and so on going into an election year, I think that this does affect them. So there is a lot of politics at play in it. I don't believe that people who are appointed to independent offices should come under political attack in that manner unless they do something to openly show, or unless they are conflicted. Then you can point out the conflict of interest that they may have. But I think that we've seen far too much political interference and political statements coming out from the government with respect to people who hold these offices.
Yeah, and moving forward, as you said, when we look at transparency, this is, we say, the lead up to the election year, we call it, right? What can the government do to create that level of transparency that is needed so that the public would regain that confidence that this is not just political back and forth because an election is coming? What can they do to show that they are being transparent with the public funds?
Well, the first thing is, I think that this investigation that they are speaking about, because we keep hearing the minister say he's having an investigation, he should tell us who is conducting this investigation, and I think they should satisfy the public that it's independent. Himself unto himself is not an independent investigation. So if the Ministry of Finance or somebody connected to the ministry is conducting an investigation, I don't think that will inspire much confidence. I think that they really do have to ensure that there's an independent body that investigates this entire debacle. The second thing that they need to do is they need to work on fixing the error and substantiating what they claim to be this revenue. And, and if they cannot do it, and, I think that they have to be very, careful not to appear as though they are forcing the Auditor General to accept things that she's not happy with. If I went with my business to Ernst & Young and asked them to audit my business, I can't tell them what to put in the audit reports. I can't force them to accept claims that I am making about revenue or expenditure. They have to do those things independently. So I think they need to allow this audit process to, if they've extended the time now, they need to allow the process to go through as independently as possible with as minimal interference as possible in the role of the Auditor General. The other thing I believe that it would inspire a lot of confidence in the population if they were to do it is to lay the report. Let the Auditor General's report that has already been submitted to the Parliament be laid, and then do a supplemental report and say, listen, there was an error with the new clearing system. We weren't able to produce the documentation in time. This is the report. We've now done a supplemental report, and let the Public Accounts Committee of the Parliament, which is a body that comprises opposition, government, and independent senators as well, are part of that committee. Let them sit and interrogate both reports. Let them look at it and let them be satisfied, because at the end of the day, they are the representatives of the people, and they should have the opportunity to scrutinize all the reports and make an assessment of what is done. So going into an election, if that's what they want to do, but I mean that has been said several times by the opposition. We have been calling for the report to be laid, and they don't seem to be minded to allow that report to see the light of day. And I think that is a real shame and stain on the democracy of our country, and it looks really, 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 it reflects very poorly on us as a democratic state that should have respect for the rule of law.
Thank you for that, Senator. Well, we're going to take one last break, and we'll be back as we wrap up this conversation. Guys, see you soon.
It's a brand new morning, rise up to a brand new dawning. As the passion start to rise, the energy fill the sky.
Deltec Distributors Weekend Special. Wings Friday, 3 pounds wings, 2.5 kilogram fries. Special 100 TT. Soup Saturday, 2 pounds cube beef, 2 pounds cow heel, 2 pounds chicken foot, 2 pounds pigtail, or smoke bone. Special $150. Super Sunday, 3 pounds leg and thigh chicken, 3 pounds sliced pork, 3 pounds lamb slice, 3 pounds cheese, 2 pack of pasta. Special $250. Located Main Road, Argyle, Tobago. We deliver 20 TT. Contact us on deltecdistributors.com 395-5040 or 237-0102. Deltec Distributors Weekend Special.
Need a fresh start? Upgrade your life with the things you want. At Standard Distributors in Canaan, life is good with zero. Get that amazing fridge, the stylish sofa with zero down and easy financing. Your dream house is within reach. Visit Standard Distributors today. Life is good with zero.
You can now get whatever you need whenever you need it anywhere in Tobago with Tobago. Your meals, medication, groceries, and shopping all delivered directly to you. No more hassle, no more stress. Get the Tobago app today on Google Play or Apple App Store.
That's TAPPOGO and let us deliver to you.
Check our website at www.tapogo.app or call the experts at 494-TOGO and 484-4746. Tobago. Relax. We will get it to you. Tobago's at your service.
Yeah. Hey.
Good morning and welcome back to Good Morning Tobago right here on Tobago Updates. Guys, if you are just joining us, we have been having a very interesting conversation this morning with Senator Jayanti Lakshmidiyal Ramdal. And as we wrap up this morning's conversation, we want to hear from you, Senator, because we know we have a lot of Tobago viewers all over the world that are watching this morning, both Trinidad and Tobago and the wider world. But it is important for Tobagonians to understand how issues like this affect us here in Tobago. So tell us a bit about how we in the THA are being affected.
Yeah, there's been a conversation taking place for forever. It feels like forever about autonomy for Tobago. There's always a bit of tension, even more so now, I think, between the THA and the central government when it comes to the allocations and things like that. So, financial autonomy for the THA and the amount of the budget that they get and all of that is always a topic that comes up every year around budget time, and I expect that it'll come back up again this year. And again, going into election year, of course, budgets are very important, and how the central government will choose to allocate money to Tobago. How it affects Tobagonians specifically, I think it affects every single citizen of Trinidad and Tobago, because at the end of the day, this is your money. Tobagonians pay taxes to central government, income tax. The greatest source of revenue for our government is taxes, right? You're paying VAT on everything that you buy. You're paying, you might have to pay property tax soon. You are paying, all these different types of taxes, and that's the government revenue that they are unable to account for to some extent. And so it affects you in that regard, but it also affects you, I think, because I think Tobagonians have a very keen interest in the way that central government operates and whether or not central government's involvement in Tobago is still too much, and whether they want to have more autonomy over their own affairs. So things like this, I think, definitely will impact on the mindset of the average Tobagonian who's considering, well, do these people have their house in order? I mean, they're coming here to tell us, I'm breaking it down in layman's terms, like they are they're still exercising a certain amount of control over how we, how we earn money, how we spend money, what we're doing, what we're able to get in terms of development and so on. And these types of errors occurring, whether there's adherence to the rule of law, that should affect the mindset of every citizen, because every decision that's made by central government that should be in compliance with the law is something that can affect your quality of life. I think the wider financial implications in terms of development, Tobago is still a country that wants to, an island that wants, has a lot of developmental goals for different areas, whether it is tourism, sustainability, food security, all of these things, and the central government and the actions of central government, and whether or not it will impact on the ability of the country as a whole to have a good financial bill of health to present.
Yes.
And whether that can
and Senator, sorry to cut you off there, but as we wrap up here, so we really don't have much time this morning, we're about to end. But as we wrap up, there are some persons who may see this issue as being a complex economic issue, while others may see it as just poor accounting on the behalf of the government, which some people think that they already are poor at their accounts anyway, while others may just view it as a simple technical error. But before you go, tell us, what does this really come down to in the end? What is the bottom line?
The bottom line is that we have to make sure that as a country, we have proper systems in place to account for our monies, because that impacts, as I said, the financial bill of health of the country. And I think the more important thing is that we have to show that there's accountability and transparency on the part of government and adherence to the laws that govern how we report on our finances. And I think that has been severely lacking.
Thank you so much. It's just a shame that we had to wrap up so quickly. I mean, the time really went by quick. Again, thank you so much for being with us this morning. And we hope to have a member from the government side this week that could come and give us their take on the entire situation, so we can look at this from a holistic perspective. Again, thank you so much, Senator. Guys, we want to thank you for joining us. Thank you for liking, sharing, and commenting. And again, thank you for sending all your congratulations. And I'm happy to be back here on set with you guys. Again, guys, this is Tobago Updates, and we are the #1 broadcaster here on the island of Tobago. And I look forward to seeing you again tomorrow. Have a great day.
Let's go. It's a brand new morning. Rise up to a brand new dawning. As the passion start to rise, the energy fill the skies. I say thanks for favor. So wake up and hear me neighbor. 60,000 people strong, and the vibes is never wrong. We are beauty, we are power. We are people in the sun.
You're viewing Tobago Updates Television, your exclusive gateway to Tobago.